Everybody, this is Rangadad. This is not financial advice, just the way I'm looking at the market. So, decent grind up at the moment. Still not getting any real signals of a pullback on the cards, but we are running into a fairly good resistance level at the moment. There was support on the daily around the 67,500 and resistance on the daily at 68,250 roughly. So not really a surprise that it's struggling at the top here to get through this level. This is sort of the first critical level. The next two are going to be around 71,300, and then of course the actual all-time high, which was 73,949. So let's call it 74k. I do think we've gone probably far enough that we need a little bit of a rest, but it's tricky because there's a fair arm wrestle going on the shorter time frames to try and fight this one out. Now, yesterday, obviously, we closed above that value area high, which was quite a bullish signal. Didn't even really dip back down it on the wick either. So, I'd still like to see sort of a reconfirmation of this level. It's a pretty decent trend line. Some people may have this trend line up a bit higher, somewhere around there maybe, just picking up that all-time high. But either way, it's such an important trend line that you kind of want to see confirmation of it. So confirmation would be pulling back into it, and then moving away again. And then if we break above whatever high we get to here, then you would expect a pretty decent run above that. On the daily, BBWP still climbing, bullish smart indicator still climbing, SMI still high and increasing at the moment. This will start to flatten off, but I wouldn't really expect a major pullback until we actually close below that top band again. So not a hell of a lot on the daily. The volume's good, but obviously nothing compared to the previous 2 days yet. We could see a bit of volume come in towards the close of the day. But at the moment, up is still the trend for sure. So just looking for buying opportunities if it pulls back at this stage. I'll go straight over to the heat map. So getting a lot of shorts and longs happening all at once. Like these 40 million level on just Binance is pretty high level to have so often on the charts above and below. And that's why I'm saying it's a bit of an arm wrestle at the moment. The amount that came in here very quickly right at the highs, and the fact they took it so quickly, that's kind of funny, but looks a lot like manipulation when you look at it like that. But yeah, that's I'm surprised they didn't take more of it. Obviously, there's enough people buying for it to hold up. Binance seems to be getting a better read on this for direction reasons, direction use at the moment. Let's go out though. We'll check out the 3-day. Still so much in here, eh? Actually, this is the new 61,500, really. Nearly 100 mil at that level. What's that? 64,300. That'd be a solid pullback level. 64,300. That would tidy up this vector candle. Don't know that we get there all in one day, but you want to see sort of if it gets down there, you want to see a wick. So you want to see it bouncing reasonably quickly back up and sort of closure above. I still prefer that as the level, to be honest. So yeah, closures back above 65 would be handy. If we even come down now, like it doesn't have to happen straight away. We could still continue this run, just given how much buying pressure there seems to be. Go back into here. That's still just an enormous level at 61.6 as well. We'll get back there at some stage, but as I've said before, that's not on my radar at the moment anytime soon. Still not picking up much above. Go back 3 months. So yeah, it looks like if we clear, say 68.6, then I would expect it to go reasonably quickly up into 70k. And then probably a little bit of a pause around 70 and a half. And then of course we've got to go, let's go out a bit. So even 71.2, not a bad level. And then of course you've got your basically 73 would pick up most of this liquidity here. But it could rip pretty quickly through this as well. There's a lot of shorts. May not still be in the charts though, like or on the books. I don't know how good this is at detecting stuff that's taken off the books. So that's where short term, this seems to be a better option. Seeing just where the interest is. So still seems to be a lot of interest to the upside in terms of sellers. Probably more than nearby to the downside at the moment, but we do have a reasonable amount of liquidations to grab at least down into the 66.3 sort of level. So wouldn't surprise me there. We did have a lot of like the open interest dropped a lot through the period last night. So today for the US, that period in there is kind of suggesting that there's people getting rid of positions. So that may suggest that we have a pullback sooner rather than later, but at the same time, like that price has held up pretty well, considering. So good topping signal there. Particularly, I tend to prefer them when they look like this on the Fun Pro. The perp, sorry. Yeah, just a stronger signal than on the spot. Yeah, haven't really had a bottoming signal at all for a while, really. I mean, that one in there was a bit of a bottoming signal, but not a hugely strong one. But when you're in a decent run like this, you wouldn't expect a huge bottoming signal. So yeah, up into 69 will take a lot of this, but then obviously we got that 70k big order at 70k. And then it settles down above that. and there's not a hell of a lot below. Again, still a lot of orders around the 58, 59. Don't know if they're expecting to get filled anytime soon or not, but I think they're a bit hopeful at this stage. Yeah, up around 70,300, I think, is a pretty decent target for the next day. That will pick up probably towards the top of this wick, actually. Yeah. So that would sort of clean up a lot of liquidity that would be sitting above this wick here. Get into this vector candle. But in saying that, is it going to take more of that vector? Yeah, possibly. Yeah, somewhere above 70K wouldn't surprise me today. Downside, you're looking at probably the first real test will be at 66,800, but I suspect wicking down into the 66,300 area. If we break below that on the shorter time frames, then I would expect a retest, probably the middle of this vector candle, which should be somewhere around 64,400. So they're kind of the targets for today. I think might just put 64,400 on here just as a reminder. Expect that to be support. We'll see how we go. Have a quick look at stocks. Interesting bit of a roll over here on the NAS. I kind of expected a little bit more of a bounce than that, given that this was a vector candle in here. Still in sort of the bullish control zone. BBWP is still high, but it's sort of flattening off a little bit. This advanced decline line has jumped quite a bit. Like that's pretty strong. So even though it's come back a little in the last couple of days, have a quick look at SPY. So SPY's just seems to be wanting to push higher, I would say. Yeah, not. Oh, excuse me. No major signals of a major pullback on SPY yet. Nasdaq's a tricky one, especially given the semis got hammered the other day. It just seems like it's time for the rest of the market to catch up. Semis just went on such a massive bull run with Nvidia and things like that. RSP, so equal weights actually, it has made a new high. So again, nothing to really worry about, and it suggests the yeah. So your IWM's leading the way. So it's all your small stocks tend to be playing catch up at the moment. Money's moving out of the big guys into the little guys, which isn't a bad thing, but it's very much a late cycle kind of move. XLI is still charging onwards and upwards as well. Don't expect another like 3 months of this. I think there will be another pullback at some stage before the end of the year, like decent sort of 10% pullback range, I would be expecting. There is a lot of structural stuff that's not great though. I'm surprised banks are doing so well, to be honest. A lot of people looking at the losses and stuff that they've had with interest earnings and bad debt and stuff like that, and wondering why this is the case. But they're still profitable at this stage. The market's not the economy, and the economy's not the market. So, but when the two do align, that's when you got to bail out. ITB, yeah, home construction's still going strong. Didn't break to a new high, but still on a pretty good move. Momentum's only just really started to tick up. So, BBWP, sorry, the stochastic momentum's been going for a while. So this looks like it's set for a decent breakout. DJI Gold's bounced a little bit, so I'd say DJI is up. Yeah, gold's probably relatively flat. Yeah, gold's going all right. Obviously not as much as DJI, but yeah, interesting. What's the high there? Geez, we're close to that 27K. I'll be interested to see what happens at 27K. This, I mean, it looks like it's recovered all the vector candles and stuff along the way, right up to the top of this one now. But I mean, it's a long way to go to get to one below, which it doesn't have to come back in here, but that definitely looks primed for a new high and a few new highs over the next few days, I'd say. BBWP is only just increasing. Stochastic momentum's just getting into the highs. So silver's going with it. Still like to see more of a breakout on this gold versus silver, or silver versus gold, sorry. Oil, that's interesting. We talked yesterday about this potentially coming into the golden pocket, which is the 618786. It's obviously done that, but looks like it's kind of flattening off at the moment, but stochastic momentum's still to the downside, so we could be challenging the low in here, or at least the 786 level, I would think. The gold, I mean, oil's going to be interesting. I think it'll be suppressed into the election, which isn't, it's only a few weeks away now, so. 10 years on the rise again. High yield is going with the market, which is good. TLT's had a nice bounce, thanks mainly to the 2-year, 10-year dropping again, like the actual yields. Japanese market still trudging higher. Chinese market still coming down a bit. Pretty flat day yesterday, really. But yeah, I'm still expecting this to come back down a bit more. VIX, yeah, flat. Obviously, the money supply is going to still be going up. The M2 in particular. Have a quick look at the Dixie. The Dixie's broken that 200 EMA. We get another close above that, then that will be particularly interesting. And to the point where I would actually expect, if that keeps going, you'd be expecting the Fed to keep rates on hold. So, as we said yesterday, if Dixie does keep going, Aussie will hit that 200. Still think this is a good point for a turnaround in the Dixie, especially with stocks moving up. I'd be much more comfortable with that if the Dixie was dropping at the same time. decent pullback for the Japanese yen as well. Seems to be possibly finding a bit of support around the 0.5 level on the fib. Let's go euro. The euro's obviously hit that SMA, and again, a bounce from here would not be untoward. That would be quite, like, it would make sense, especially with stochastic momentum so low. But we've got a fair way before we can actually get out of that from where it is. And BBWP is still quite high, so it would make sense from here for BBWP to keep dropping and this to pull back at least into the $1.10 mark, which would make sense on the Dixie as well. So a bit of confluence there for a potential pullback on Dixie. Percentage of stocks above the 50-day moving average has actually come down a little bit. That surprises me given that IWM had such a good day. I would have thought that would drive the percentage of stocks higher, unless that hasn't. That's showing today. It's showing yesterday. Don't worry. This is a day behind this fucking thing. Apple. I mean, that's not Apple. That's Mag 7. But yeah, Mag 7's obviously doesn't have the money flowing into it that like across the board that it has previously. Nvidia's still holding up. So hasn't really had a retest of this level yet, and that's very much an inside day. So you'd kind of expect a bit of continuation of the downside tonight. That's interesting that ArkK has actually managed to recover that channel. I mean, it is made up of a lot of smaller cap stocks out of the Russell, but Apple, it's had a bit of a pullback. Wouldn't call that a retest yet. The fact that it wants to do it now, though, if it keeps coming back into this level and bounces away, you would expect a run up into earnings, and then earnings will probably destroy it. But I mean, it might not, but that's kind of what it's shaping up for at the moment as being fairly likely. Amazon, meh. Doesn't look great coming into earnings, but this is one that might bump on earnings. Meta pulling back. Again, if this pulls back into earnings, that's not a bad thing. If we retest this level, they come out with good earnings. Upside move would be very much anticipated. AMD's pulling back with the rest of most of the semis. SMCI is going well, and Nvidia's going well. I'm going to put AS. I think that's them. Yeah, that's them. So, whoops, these guys got hammered, and the rest of the semis are still going okay. That surprised me a little bit. Anyway. Earnings. So they surprised to the upside, but they got hammered. I can't remember what the exact reason was. There was something about the leak that happened. I think they were projecting lower revenues in the future or something. Anyway, just shows you doing well as a company can hurt you in the market. All right. I think I'll have a quick look at the Interesting. So, been talking about this for a couple of days as well. It really looks like we're actually getting this little pullback, um, which is typically, I think, it seems to have been longs being liquidated before a move up. Either that or profit taking, but um, we've seen that on most of the pushes up lately. Actually, I'm just going to go and use the other chart. Where the fuck? Here. So, uh, this is BTC long. So you can see here, it sort of was rising as we're bottoming here. Then it plateaus towards the top, and then there seems to be a liquidation event or something, or profit taking, and then we sort of drop down. And as we're dropping down, the longs start increasing, and then obviously it goes back up, and then it stays flat while we're sort of peaking. This one here was interesting because they held the whole time this dropped. And that was a pretty decent drop. If you remember, this is Bitcoin here, this is Ethereum. Just hide Ethereum. Yeah. Uh, so, sorry about the scale, but yeah. So as you can see, as Bitcoin's dropping, people are going long. As it tops off, people are getting out of those longs, or they're definitely not buying into new longs, and it flattens off, and then we have a drop. And then typically we sort of get these liquidation events near the top, just as it's coming down from the top. As people have gone sort of like, there's people selling, getting rid of longs in here, but there's plenty of people buying as well. That's, I think, why it kind of stays flat. And yeah, you get these little blips to the downside before you start ramping up, which means we could actually be gearing up for a pullback, to be honest. Haven't seen one yet, but that little signal there has been pretty good at showing chances of a pullback, and an extended pullback. So what we kind of want to see is this to bottom out and for the longs to start coming back in again. So next couple of days will be interesting because this tends to only last a few days, these sort of pullbacks on the longs. I'll be watching for sort of a bit of a turnaround on that. So that's probably the first indication that we've got that we may have a bit of a retrace here. Shorter time frames. Oh, okay, got a bit of a drop there. Yeah, okay. This could be the start of something like a decent drop. It's just closed outside the Bollinger Band at, I think, 2.5 or 3 standard deviations on a vector candle. It's pulling back into that Bollinger. You got the 200 EMA on the 5-minute there, which may not provide much resistance with this sort of breakout. The DMI is changing and the ADX is increasing. So, yeah, probably looking pretty good for a decent short run. That's interesting. That candle there threw up a short signal. That would have been a good entry. Would have been hard to trust that though, except for the big wick to the downside. Still working on these entries and exits. Don't worry about them for the time being. But yeah, as I said, that could be a pullback signal on the Bitcoin longs. Could be a fake out too. It's going to be a bouncy ride until we actually break out to new all-time highs, and I think it'll probably run. But yeah, I think it's shaping up for a pullback. Hard to say before we get probably break below at least this 100 EMA on the 15-minute. Interesting, the 15 minutes just ticked up on BBWP. So ADX is just ticking up as well. It is quite low. And yeah, that's very much a down signal. And a pretty strong one. If BBWP keeps increasing and this ADX keeps increasing, and the minus stays above the plus on the DMI, then yeah, it's geared up for a pretty decent pullback anyway. My MACD is showing pullback. My stochastic momentum on the 15-minute is showing pullback. Pretty much everything's showing pullback at the moment. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be the case. Bitcoin can do stupid things, but looking like a fairly strong signal. It's just whether it wants to recover half this vector candle first. You can see most of them have been recovered here at the top, and the fact that there has been some moves and not much follow through in this region suggests that we might be heading down sooner rather than later. Quick look here. And that's every freaking time Norton comes up, even though I'm telling it not to pay attention, it sticks its nose in, doesn't it? So where are we looking for pullbacks? I mean, 65's juicy for the time being, sort of that low 66, 300-ish. I think like we've been on such a big run, it wouldn't surprise me if we do come back into that 65 at least. And people will be calling false breakout and all sorts of stuff if that happens, which, yeah, maybe. We did get a blue vector candle there too, which tends to be the start of a reversal, like the end of a move anyway. So 64,400. 64,400 is definitely on the cards. Just have to wait and see if we see much more than that. But it looks like probably more likely for a pullback to start in the next day or two than not, if not today. Have to see how this plays out. This could be a shakeout too. Like when the BBWP is this low, sometimes, especially after a big run, and the Bollinger's are still quite wide apart compared to what they have been in the past, you can get some like fake outs where it'll increase and then come back down, bottom out, and then go again, or just chop around. Like it's hard to get out of this level sometimes. Sometimes it goes straight away. But even then, as you can see, as it's increasing, it was actually short bias in that area and then swapped around, and BBWP just kept charging. So look, at this stage through the day, it's going to be probably a pretty boring trading day. It'll depend a little bit on what Asia wants to do. I think they will probably set the tone for today. So in maybe 4 hours, 5 hours, we'll probably get confirmed direction. That's interesting. Does seem to want lower. Not huge volume on this move, but yeah. 100 EMA, 67,300 will be interesting to see what it does there. Which could be a sort of you pull back, BBWP goes again, and then comes back. But tricky going short when Bitcoin's in this sort of mood, but it's certainly ripe for one. All right, that'll do for today. Catch you later.